Good morning and welcome to the Business Playground. My name is Jacob Odell, and today I have the honor of speaking with Beth Trejo, who is the founder and CEO of a company called Chatterkick. Beth, please give me a little bit of your background and about Chatterkick as well.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me today. Quick background on Chatterkick. We just turned 10 years old. So I started the company 10 years ago, really to solve a couple of problems that I was seeing within the business community. And these are the same problems that we solve today. The first is businesses have a lot of intention to do social media, and they just get busy. They don't have the time, they don't have the expertise to hire the right people or even to do it themselves. And social media has changed. It's become a lot more complex. It's harder to draw the lines for ROI and really understand how these tools affect business initiatives. And so that's where Chatterkick comes in. We help those business partners solve that problem. We also build websites so that businesses are proud to promote their online presence. And we do a lot in the digital recruitment space for high demand employment categories, because social media isn't just one thing, it's all the things. Mm-hmm. So we help those business partners win the internet.
There you go. That's awesome. And so you're come up through Chatterkick. How did that start? I know it's a great story. I've heard it, but for people who have not heard your story, please enlighten them.
Sure. So I did not come up through the agency space. I was actually working at the Siouxland Chamber of Commerce here locally and was working with businesses. That was part of my job there, and noticed patterns of problems. And that's one way to think about how businesses should start, of recognizing those patterns and common struggles or challenges that these businesses were having. And they knew social media was a tool that was emerging on the scene that they should use, but they didn't know how to do it. And so they were looking to me for advice. And they were also making business deals form with relationships, coffees, business dinners, lunches. And so the parallels of those two things, I really connected the dots and said, I think that you need to use social media to continue those relationship building moments offline or online, just as similar to the online space, and really develop that connection so that you can be in front of your audience more and hopefully, again, recruit candidates or drive sales.
Sure. And the online world today is as hectic as ever.
For sure.
And when you first started out Chatterkick, was it only you, or did you have some partners along the way?
Yeah, so I started with a partner, Kyle Kelly, and he was critical to helping me launch the business and really supported me in how to start a business. I had never started a business before. And one of his key employees, Virginia Anderson, was also critical in starting the business. It was operations, and that's how she thinks. And she's amazing at it. And that is not me. I am a visionary. And, I always joke that if I didn't ever have to send an invoice, I never would have, because they just slow me down.
Sure.
But you have to do that for businesses. And so she really kept everything on point those first few years.
Good. So you did have some help along the way. And when someone's getting started with business, do you think that they should get some help with it, especially if they're being new?
I think one of the biggest things for starting a business is really being self-aware and understand your natural skill sets. Is it speaking? Is it writing? Is it the details and actually performing the work? And once you understand who you are naturally and where you can modify a little bit, but maybe that's not your comfort zone, and then surround yourself with people that can complement you, whether that's a partnership, whether that's trusted resources, network. In the beginning, you have to be scrappy. Mm-hmm. And so really understanding what that looks like for your business model. It's very different in a service world than in a product world. So also recognize what you're actually selling to people and the value that you're providing.
So what kind of, I want to say, information or advice did, Kyle Kelly or any of the other people that you worked with give you that really helped you start on that path to succeeding with Chatterkick?
I mean, I think the biggest thing that I was able to recognize early on is just capturing the value that you're providing to someone. So that could be in a pricing strategy and making sure you're not selling yourself short, especially in the service business. That's the first thing that someone does, is they price themselves extremely low. And I did at times because it was me, and I was just telling people what I knew, and I didn't really recognize the value that I was providing them to their business. And so capturing that value within pricing strategies, within reporting tactics, or making sure that you're able to grow and continuously add new value to those accounts.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm dealing with something like that right now with my business. So I personally run a real estate photography company, and I've spoken with Kyle Kelly, so that sparked a little interest in me as well. And so, I mean, even for my business, I'm in that mix of whether or not to price higher or lower, what's my value, the assets that I can provide and value I can provide for other people. So that's all good news. What are some of the strategies that you use for your business and helping other brands and clients succeed?
So when it comes to social strategies, and again, we help businesses win the internet. So when we use the word social, we're talking about not just the main platforms, which we definitely use, like Facebook, Instagram, but kind of the outlying platforms as well. So Google pay-per-click isn't always considered social. So for us, they're just tools in the toolbox. I think anytime that you take a one-size-fits-all approach to a world like social media or even online marketing, it tends to not be as effective. We really see this customized strategies for where the business is at in their digital journey, where the business is at in their differentiation. All of these things make a big difference in how effective they will be online. So that being said, we start with the end. What are you trying to do with your business goals? Are you trying to mitigate risk? Are you trying to drive growth? Are you trying to support your sales team? Because that's your quickest way to win. Are you trying to outpace your competitors? Or maybe even land that key salesperson that will transform your business? So we start at the end and work our way backwards to get the tactics and tools that they're going to need to be successful.
Just set a reasonable goal.
Yep.
That's all you got to do. And I mean, even in some of my classes right now, we're of course learning about marketing and business relationships and whatnot. And the strategies that you're talking about with online platforms and being a social agency as well, what kind of content are you posting for these clients, or telling them that they should be for each different platform, because each platform has different algorithms and whatnot that you should be posting, whether it's a picture or a video?
Well, first thing, and I'll probably throw your marketing teachers for a loop, but I despise the word marketing. And a lot of brands are changing that vocabulary to be customer experience or even connection, because that's really what I think we're trying to do. We're not just trying to push messaging down people's throat, because that's what people are kind of revolting against right now. Sure. So if you can really lean into the customer experience and the connection and the customer intimacy, like how well do you know the problems that your customers are having? And you should know them before they even are able to verbalize them or before they even come to light, because you understand who they are. And that's the messaging that you want to put out there on your social channels. Connection, authenticity. Who are you really? People don't want all that polished stuff anymore. They want realness. Look at the way that TikTok's exploding. It's because people are sick of being sold to. They're sick of being told what they should do and what they want, and they want to feel like they have the freedom to make that choice. But they also are super curious in discovering new products and services, and they want that kind of mentality of, what could I do with this? How could this make my life better? And so that's what I would recommend, is focus on connection and authenticity, number one. Number two, most people have 8 platforms that they use as it relates to social media on a regular basis. This crosses age demographics, this crosses genders. The difference is different populations and audiences are using the platforms in unique ways. So a 50-year-old may use Facebook differently than a 15-year-old or a younger person, but the reality is they probably still have the apps installed on their phone. And so that's where you need to meet people at when it comes to content. So ask yourself, what resources do I have? If you're a real estate photographer, you may not have the ability to put 25 posts on every platform every single day. It just may not work for you. So you kind of have to look at your resource allocation. Like, okay, I have to do this myself. And if I do 4 times on Facebook, 4 times on Instagram, and 1 on LinkedIn, maybe that's enough for me.
Okay. So just allocating your resources that you have and whatnot.
Yes.
Okay. So that segues into my next question for you is, with how many times should someone be posting per day, per week, in order to see some growth within their company?
So that is one of the most common questions I get. And it's so interesting to me, because I think people are just wanting a prescription, right?
Sure.
They just want the recipe. But the reality is I could give you a recipe, and I could tell you what the research shows and what studies have shown, and I will give you some insights on that. But the actual results that we see, we manage hundreds of different social accounts, it completely depends. So a lot of people can get away with posting less if they're using content targeting, or if they're using, platforms like LinkedIn and their content's really good. It will live in the newsfeed for a very long period of time. So I will say, on average, a good just generalization is twice a week on most platforms is the minimum that you should go.
Okay.
A lot of brands are posting once a day, 3 times a day on Facebook because it's noisy and loud and they're not using content targeting. Our clients, we recommend 2 to 3 times a week, but we use content targeting, meaning using the advertising module to get that content to live longer in the newsfeed so that the volume of content development isn't as high.
Okay. And can you explain to people what
Yes.
content development or marketing would be?
Yep. So Facebook specifically, and Instagram and a lot of these, LinkedIn, a lot of these platforms, you can use the advertising module. So you use advertising. It's very similar to a sponsored post, or you could use the boosted post is kind of a generalized functionality, but it's similar in the sense that you're using small amounts of ad dollars. So I'm talking $5 to $20, and you target that one piece of content or post so that it's living longer in the newsfeed. But what you're not necessarily trying to do with that is get someone to sign up for a newsletter. Like, you're not trying to get web traffic. You're just trying to get the right audience to see your content or interact with your content.
Okay, so just building awareness, essentially.
Building awareness or engagement works really well. That's a great metric to kind of just test the waters to see, do people really care about the content that I'm putting out there? And again, it just lowers your content load a little bit. TikTok is interesting because the content volume on that platform is insane. Mm-hmm. These creators are creating a ton of content on a regular basis, and it's all video content. So that platform is definitely a higher volume platform, as well as Instagram stories, typically a higher volume platform.
Okay, so Instagram stories is another huge topic.
Yeah.
I know that a while ago Instagram stories weren't too big, and then they started to pick up again. What are some of those side, kick to the side kind of marketing or connection tactics, I should say,
yes.
That people should be using that aren't always in the public eye?
Yeah. So we like to think of Instagram as actually 3 different platforms within itself. And Facebook has so many functionalities as well. So I'm going to set that one aside. But I think Instagram is one of the best examples of this. So you have the feed, which one type of people consume. You have Instagram stories, which oftentimes people completely dismiss the feed and are only watching stories, almost like a news channel, or right? They're going flipping channels. And then you have Reels, which some people only go to Instagram for the Reels at this point, which are like a copycat of TikTok. They're all videos. Mm-hmm. So that platform alone can take a ton of time as a business or an entrepreneur. So my recommendation is, if there's a one-person show managing it, whatever feels the most easy and natural to you, start there. Because if you're used to Instagram and that's the one you use, chances are you'll still probably be able to find your demo on it. And if you're easily able to create content, it takes the friction from the posting side of things. The chances that you'll still be able to build a community on that platform are still high, especially regionally.
Okay, so just getting as many eyes on you can, or on you on that platform is what you're trying to do, essentially. And that's what all connection building is about.
Yes.
So leading into that is, do you guys usually use links or any opt-in pages for your clients in order for them to, gather more engagement through the posts that they are using, whether it's in the description or a clickable button that's attached? What are you guys doing in order to track those analytics? Yeah,
so we track all the things. But one thing that we are seeing trending out of style are some of the ClickFunnels and form gates, which are the fill this in and get this information. From a marketing standpoint, everybody loves it. But as a user, when was the last time you filled out something? When was the last time you gave them your real email?
Spicy.
Right? So we forget to put ourselves in the seat of our customers or in our prospects. And so while I think that there's a place for some of those, I mean, the B2B industry, if you are giving a research report or a report of huge value, 100%, put it, form gate it, you're good to go. Use it as a typical marketing lead. But if you're just trying to push something that isn't really valuable to someone, or it doesn't really have that level of like, I need this right now, sign me up, I just would take the form gates out and track your button clicks. Because if you're doing it the way you should, they'll get a hold of you when they need to. They'll track your contact forms, track your phone calls that you're getting. I mean, I'm a huge proponent of tracking, but I also think that it's important to understand like what you're trying to get someone to do and why.
Mm-hmm. So with tracking and everything, I know that iOS just came out with some of their
big issues.
Big issues that they're doing with iOS, with privacy policies and blocking apps from tracking you and everything.
Yes.
So from your perspective as a company, and say a client is coming to you with a proposal that you know they want your assistance on their brand strategy and marketing, how are you almost giving them that pitch of this is how we're going to do it, and then they bring up the question of, well, I heard Facebook isn't going as well right now because of all the tracking information, and Mark Zuckerberg is doing this, and that, and he's upset. So what is your strategy for Facebook currently? Yeah,
so Facebook is interesting. People complain about it a lot. It's definitely probably the most grumpy platform of all of them. However, it is one of the leaders of results, and that could be results from website traffic, cost per click, cost per engagement. I mean, we just see the data. So it's hard to argue against the data. And I think that there's definitely still a place for it. And I mean, research shows it's still one of the top channels that most brands are using. So even though people are grumpy about it, they're not exiting the platform as much as you would think. Because it's still working for them. In terms of tracking, so I think there's a couple things to look at with tracking. First is you have multiple options, right? You can track every single thing, try to literally get it to correlate to your balance sheet, try to get it to, connect all of the dots with your finances. But that too requires money and time. So there is a point where you may be investing more in the tracking than you actually are in the effort to get the leads. So it's kind of a risk and opportunity cost. Yes, the numbers may be off. So we just need to both agree, client and anybody that's providing the service, that there may be discrepancies. But I personally can't fix it. The client can't fix it. So the opposite of what you're doing is nothing, which has a cost. Right? No strategy is still a strategy. So you kind of have to decide on what is going to be my biggest risk as a business, not doing anything, which that's 2020 showed us that clear as day of if you didn't have anything ready in 2020, you were flipped upside down by everything going virtual. Those businesses, the clients we were working with, yes, they had disruption, but they were able to turn on the engine because the car was already built.
Sure.
So they just were able to go. They had choices, the opportunity of choice. They had, the availability to decide, should we go all online? Can we move our sales efforts online? Because they didn't have to build it in midair.
Geez, that's a mouthful right there.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things that you can do, especially, speaking on COVID and how people had to flip upside down, all their strategies changing and whatnot. Luckily, I wasn't building a business during that time, so I didn't have to deal with that. But now I have the repercussions of everything, and people are still in the mix of whether or not they want to stay online with meetings or anything like that, or if they do a lot more in-person tactics as well. So on my next question for you is, how are you utilizing SEO? For those that don't know, SEO is search engine optimization. How are you guys utilizing search engine optimization for your clients as well? Because some people think that it's dead and that it's not really something that they should even dive into, but just create, Google My Business page. And that's it.
So SEO is a really interesting topic because a lot of people use the words SEO, search engine optimization, but very few people actually know what goes into that. Because if you can think of search engine optimization as a big pie, all of the slices and everything that goes into search engine optimization, most of them are very small pieces of the pie. So you kind of have to know from a technical level as well from a just human interest level of content level how well you're performing. So the first thing for just general SEO, how you come up in search, is you need to be found for your name. Okay, so if you're a business, whether it's an existing business or a new business, you need to be found for your name. People forget that that is so critical and they want to be found for their main keyword. But the people that you are getting referrals from, the people that already know you and want to buy, end of the funnel stuff. I know Chatterkick. I want to buy from Chatterkick. I need to be able to find her phone number or her email or the company email, right? So number one rule, get found for your name. And you want to own as much of that first page real estate as possible. So that's going to be your website, but that's not everything. Your social channels typically come up on that. So that's another big check mark for why should you be on these platforms, because they're heavy in search engines, Facebook and LinkedIn especially.
Okay.
The other thing that you want to be able, your Google My Business page, that's a whole nother social platform and carries a lot of search weight. So making sure that you're responding to reviews on your Google My Business page, making sure that it's optimized and that it's appearing on maps are really important for local search especially. And then the second thing you want to be found for after you get a good handle for your name, like we always just screenshot that first page in Google and say, this is kind of where you're at. But the second thing that you want to be found for is your name plus reviews. Because again, these are very low hanging fruit that businesses need, so that if you're looking for Chatterkick reviews, it's not just one platform telling you it. Go do your research, right? And that's what you want to be as a business. You want to have that presence online that really is an indication of what you can do and how you can help people, but it's not just in one spot.
That's a lot. I mean, with dealing with social media and everything, just Googling yourself is a whole nother ballpark that you have to deal with. And
very much so.
For me, I'm learning this as well. So, I mean, this whole conversation right here is me taking it in for my personal use as well for the audience.
Yeah.
And like I set up the Google My Business page and it's been going well. People can find me online. Realtors that I work with and everything are always available and they have my contact information, which is great. But, got to get my social medias up onto that page, which is a little difficult for me right now with school and everything. However, it's something that's got to be done in order to be seen, and I understand that. And my other question for Google is, how do you build Google's trust? Because Google doesn't just throw any website up at the top, and you have to build some rapport with Google before their algorithm actually lets you up there.
Yeah, so part of it's timing, right? Just time. The longer a domain lives, you get authority with that, right? So if you have an older company or an older domain, the chances that you have some ranking authority are probably pretty high. So that's one thing. The other thing is your name, address, phone number, all need to be consistent. So if you have an address that says street and you put ST on one spot, make sure it's ST on your Facebook address, ST on everything, so that you're very, very consistent with your naming structure. Very important. With your address, your phone number, everything needs to be consistent. That's how Google can map everything together. Different people have different business names also play into it. One of the things that I'm so glad that I did, and I would give any business this advice, have a name for your company that is not either auto-corrected to something else, because that is a beast with search engines, hard to spell, very difficult for users to find, or competes against something in a way that you were not intending. So Chatterkick is phonetically easy to spell, right? There's not a duplication of it out there or very little competition. So when someone's searching Chatterkick, even if they spell it slightly wrong, Google knows that and it will autocorrect them and get them to where they need to be, which is our business. So a lot of businesses start with names that either have a lot of competition, like it's similar to something else, or it's similar to a big name brand that's bidding on their keyword, and now all of a sudden you're $10,000 a month under those platforms. So a huge part of it is just the name of your company that you're trying to promote.
Promotion.
Yeah.
That's it. Just get your name out there. So I want to segue into another topic as well,
Mm-hmm.
and not strictly with marketing, but from a business perspective. When building Chatterkick
Mm-hmm.
from the ground up, and like you said, you had business partners to help you along the way.
Mm-hmm.
How did you like develop your team
Mm-hmm.
and actually take on that beast of hiring an employee for your first time and getting them to actually learn how you want them to learn and do what you want them to do, but also make that culture and everything feel good for them to be at work?
Yes. So my first employee was actually our intern. She's from Morningside. She's wonderful. And I do remember just the feeling of hiring the first employee because as a business, it's especially a service-based business, it's your number one cost and investment within your company. And it was terrifying for me in the beginning. And I think it is for many business owners to bring that first full-time team member on. And then I think the other piece of advice that I would give somebody is the team members you need in the beginning are typically those that have a lot of variety in their skill sets. So they're good writers, they're good designers, they can learn new things quickly, they can help support different departments. And those are really critical type of people that you need in the beginning. As your company grows and you have more team members, you can start dividing those tasks out a little bit more granularly, developing roles, developing departments, whatever that looks like for the type of business that you work in. But I do think team member, whether that's bringing new team members on or celebrating them as they launch another stage of their career, has been probably the most rewarding part of what I've done over the last 10 years. We've been able to make some big impacts on business. I think that's awesome. But our team members really keep me going.
Yeah. Just nice. You guys got a good culture over
We
there?
have a really great team, and we've had a great team over the last 10 years. And it's also probably one of the hardest things because people are people. They're not, there's lots of different things happening in their lives and the business life. So it's definitely challenging at times to make sure everybody's on the same page.
Now, how many employees do you have?
So we have around 20 right now, and we have another 4 or 5 that are consistently working with us on our creative network side. So, yeah.
And creative network meaning?
So those would be like our creative partners. So videographers, photographers. We like to bring in specialists as needed for our different projects to make sure that our projects are awesome. And, different videographers and photographers do different types of developing,
Yep.
right? You know that.
I know that.
So, we have copywriting and just different people in the creative space that, want flexibility in their work, and we need the flexibility to scale up and scale down based on our projects.
Okay, there you go. And that's something else with your systems and processes of actually getting people to follow almost like your guidelines.
Mm-hmm.
I know that businesses have kind of their Bible in the sense of what they think that they should be using and for all of their employees to follow. So did you guys create kind of a Bible in your way of your systems and processes of how things should be run?
In the beginning, no. I think we were all going in the same direction because there was only 3 of us. So we knew what we had to get done and we knew what we had to, do to do that. Even now, so we're 10, we're really in the last 2 years have been focused on buttoning up, documenting our processes and standardizing some of our systems. But speed is your friend in the beginning. You have to get ahead of your competitors. That's what you have in many instances as your differentiator. Like, you can do it faster. And so I didn't do a lot of the process and systems. We had a handbook, but because I wanted to make sure that we were fast. And the more rules that were in front of us, the more it would slow us down. So it's a complete risk analysis, I'll use that word again, to different types of businesses. Some businesses like to start very formal in their documentation and systems, and we probably could have done much better at that in the beginning, but we didn't.
But you didn't, and that's okay.
Yeah.
So how did you control and stabilize everything that was going on with your company and all the clients that you were taking on as well?
So we didn't really control. We got new clients in. We tried to keep them happy and tried to make an impact as fast and as long as that we could. And we hired when we needed to, and I didn't really have a system and process for that. I could have definitely done that better. Looking back, I think we took on too much work for the number of people that we had, because I wanted to make sure that my team members were taken care of, and I didn't, I was able to pay them. So definitely probably could have done that better, but it was, fortunately, we did not have issues with sales. So that never was our problem. It was always
That's good.
Yeah, we just didn't want to overload our team, and we did at times. So
okay, that's good. I mean, sales is never bad.
Yeah,
but you don't want to grow too fast because then it becomes hectic and.
Oh, it was crazy.
Yeah,
I mean, we went. So I ended up. I started my business with a partner, but then I ended up selling the company to a private equity company like midway through. And we scaled from 6 people to 20, I don't know how much we had at the time, 22, 23 fast. And it was crazy. It was nuts. It was exciting at times and just absolutely insane at other times. But learned a lot. And ultimately, we were able to sustain that growth rate. And we still are at about that same not the same rate of growth, but the same head count that we scaled up to at that time.
That's great. I mean, that's a lot. That's pretty difficult for a lot of businesses to stay ahead of the game just like that. And for you to be doing this for 10 years now, that's amazing. And I applaud you on that because I hope to do that one day as well. And one of my final questions to you is about the biggest failure that you did throughout this process, and what did you learn from it and everything?
Oh, I mean, I've made so many mistakes. I've started other businesses as side businesses to support Chatterkick. They didn't work out. I mean, I've had so many of those like failures and things I would have done differently. I think looking back, I probably should have had a plan for future growth at a little earlier stage. I kind of was flying by the seat of my pants longer than I would have liked. And like I mentioned before, I think it really created some burnout moments that I never intended for employees, but it's something that I wish I didn't have to put that burden on them at that time, because it was nuts. We had so many accounts. We had so many things happening at once. And I think that it became really heavy for some of my employees in those moments. And I never wanted that to happen, but I know ultimately it did.
Yeah. And that's a lot to deal with. I can't imagine. I mean, once I have my team going and everything, I look forward to the hecticness, but it's going to be scary and exciting at the same time.
Yeah. And I thrive in those environments. But again, looking back and even now, like making sure you're matching your employee type to those that thrive in those environments, right? Like we hired people on that we probably should have vetted better that they don't thrive in those environments. They want systems and processes in place and they want to follow those systems and processes. They don't thrive on the newness and the chaos and the what's next messy growth stage. And so being able to better map that of the type of employees you need for that stage of growth would have made things less painful at times.
Got it. Yeah. Just dealing with it. Just going by the flow and enjoying it. So one of my final questions, again, it just keeps coming to my mind, is what is a productivity hack for entrepreneurs who are getting started and have this idea but don't know what to do, but they need to get started?
I don't know if this is a hack, but it's something that's really important is patterns. Because I think everybody says, well, you need to know what your customers want. You need to know why you're different, which is so important and it's true. But sometimes it's hard to know what that means. Like, what do you do every day to make that happen? But what you can do from an action standpoint is find the patterns. What are the things that people are saying over and over again that they need help with? What's coming easy to you? That's a pattern, right? What do you think is important, but nobody actually wants? One thing that is a big flag in business is if you put your service or product out there and you're reaching people and no one is raising their hand to buy, that's a problem. That could be the way that you're saying that you're solving a problem. It could be that you think that the problem is urgent and expensive to solve, but your audience doesn't really think so. And so if you can find the patterns, go on Facebook groups, go on Reddit, channels. Go and listen to comments on, different news articles to see what do people actually care about, and then mapping those patterns and say, okay, this is something I see all the time. I think this is a thing.
Just go online.
Yeah.
Look for flags, keys that people are actually talking about. Conversations are huge, right? I've been on like Quora and Reddit before. Just
Quora's a really great site too.
They have amazing things on Quora, and that's actually helped me a lot for my business stuff, and it's amazing. Now, something that I want to follow up with, the last question that I have for you is, how much do you read? That's my question.
So I read online articles, and then I listen to a ton of podcasts. Okay. So I consume most of my content via audio, including books. I don't know why. It just has always been a easier way for me to retain the information. So that's where I get most of my information.
And what are some of those books that you read?
I knew you were going to ask me about business books.
I have to.
So I don't even remember any names of books. This is a huge fault of mine. I don't remember names of books or names of movies, so don't ask me about those either.
Okay.
One of the ones I like is Traction. That is a business operating system. That is a good one. There's one about habits, and I can't remember what it's called. I'm blanking, but that was another one that was kind of a productivity hack that I really liked. I'm sure there's other ones.
There's a whole bunch of them.
Gary V's books are good.
Crushing It.
Jab, Right Hook, I think it's called. Some of his earlier books actually are still relevant today.
Yeah. I've read all of Gary V's books.
Yeah.
James Clear, Atomic Habits.
That's the one I was thinking of. Yeah, yes, that's what it is. I was thinking it.
Yeah, that book was amazing. If anybody wants to get onto that book, it's a great book, and you can listen to any of those or watch them.
Yes.
Or listen or read them. So I recommend that you go start reading and educating yourself. And is that some good advice right there? Educate yourself?
Yes, I definitely feel like being hungry for information and super curious is key for business traits. And last thing I'll say, because I think this is where this separates good businesses from great businesses, is really understand, is your problem that you're solving expensive and pervasive? Like, is it something that's really a challenge for a business that it's either expensive because that will make them move and take action, or is it pervasive and it's like going across their departments? It's really like driving them crazy, because that is what will make people take action. The things that are like problems that people are solving that are very vanilla, or it's a product that's like good to have, but I don't need it. Those are the ones that require so much more marketing, so much more SEO, all of these things. Your positioning and your model of business is so critical to everything else that I think you don't have to worry as much about marketing if you have something that someone really wants to buy.
You heard it here. That's all you have to do is have something really cool, and people are going to want to buy it.
Easier said than done, but it's still important.
Yeah. So, Beth, I really appreciate your time on here. Where are some of the places that people can reach out to you, whether it's on Chatterkick's website or you personally, if they have any inquiries for their business or just want to do some internships or something with Chatterkick?
Yes, so we definitely offer internships also. Even if you're just starting a business and you need some advice, I am more than happy to connect and talk. For me, I was supported by so many people as I started a business, and it was so valuable to me, and it's something that I want to pay back for starting entrepreneurs. So definitely reach out to me. You can find me on all the platforms. My personal handles are pretty accessible by a quick Google search. But Chatterkick, just at Chatterkick, is pretty standard on all of our other platforms. So we're on them all.
For sure. So if you have any interested, always give Beth a call, or email her actually. Yes. She's more of an email
Well,
kind of gal.
It's easier for me to schedule via email, so.
It's understandable. I get it. But give her a call. Nope. Email. Jeez, did it again. But I appreciate everybody who is tuning into this podcast today. And this was the Business Playground with your host, Jacob Odell.
Thanks so much.